Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. My name is Saint. No doubt you've already seen the title, and yes, this game is a really big disappointment. But before I get into the things that I don't like about Overprime, I do want to preface this by saying that I believe that this is an alpha testing before it's early access, so things are subject to change. I would like my critiques to be just that, more so just critiques than me just trashing this game, but I really didn't enjoy it. It wasn't the funnest of experiences, and I want to get into that. But before I get into that stuff, the good stuff that I actually really did enjoy about the game, the map design looks really nice and just different than what I'm accustomed to. It's just beautiful. I don't know what else to say other than that. It looks really good. I was kind of surprised that it looked that good. The game felt pretty good, all things considered. Moving on to the next point is the training grounds. Training grounds is a thing to utilize that we have not had in any other Paragon game. You can really make use of that. You can actually get the items beforehand, practice your aim, practice going up against jungle camps. On to the next thing, the cosmetic items. I don't know if this is still going to be the same, but so far in this final testing, everything was pretty much free. You got currency in order to buy skins, and you get a lot of it for just playing the game. I had like 90k, coins or whatever the currency is called. I'm not too sure, but I ended up having like a lot, and still was able to buy like every single skin. Like most skins, the most expensive skin was probably around like 6,000. I think was the highest I've seen it go. But everything else was like 2,000. Again, I don't know if that's going to change, but as is, playing the game as is, that was a positive for sure. Moving on to the next point, custom games was really cool because you can run 1v1s with your friends. You could do 5v5s, 4v4s, or whatever the case may be. And it was just cool just because even playing Fault and whatnot, I wanted to, even when playing Paragon when you're new, it can be a little overwhelming trying to play the map and pathing and where the jungles is at. You don't even know like what warding does or all that stuff, so you can actually just look around, walk around the map and test that stuff out. And so I think that was really cool just because I was like, the first thing I did when I first got the game was open up a custom game and just look around, and that way I got familiar with everything, with like blind spots, being able to see certain stuff and whatnot. So it was really cool. That's probably the best positive out of everything, really. I think it's a nice quality of life change that I hope to see predecessor it actually implements in their game at sometime. Okay, so I got the positive stuff out the way. Wasn't a whole lot of it, to be honest. Going on to like the negatives, first and foremost, I'll talk about the cons. In older Paragons, you'd be able to ping and let people know if the enemy was missing and what lane, or to be careful in a certain lane, to attack a certain lane, and enemies aren't like, a ward is here or whatever. And whenever you do those comms, not only what you said was important, but also it would appear in the middle of the screen. That way no one would ever miss it. Now it's like it gets missed. It's very easy to miss. It's not really loud. The way that they've done it is like when it pings, it makes a sound. The sound to me is really not all that noticeable. It's not really all that loud. And I kind of find it difficult to really like warn people of certain stuff. I feel like it's just very easy to miss, especially for newer players where your map awareness is probably not going to be the greatest, just because again, it's overwhelming. You're still trying to learn so much from your character to the map and all that stuff. So like, yeah, I wish comms was done better and similar to how it was in Paragon before, where again you would see like a sentence in the middle of like your screen, so like you couldn't miss it. The very next thing that I want to talk about is tower damage, or the lack thereof. Tower damage is so bad, for lack of a better term. I words cannot explain just how meaningless tower damage is, and maybe that's the direction they wanted to go in. I know Paragon, the original Paragon, it was the same type of thing, so like maybe they wanted to keep it that way, but it was just like, I'm playing, I can play a support. I main support, and I'm playing the support, and I'm just taking tower damage just because it's that easy. It's not threatening, and then you're just able to pick up kills very simply just because diving is so simple. Where I feel like certain characters had like their kits were designed around being better divers, but now it just feels like anyone can really do it. That in itself is just really weird. I'm not a fan of it, in my opinion. I feel like tower should do more. I really feel like a way that they can fix it is like they can implement what League does, where it scales. So like the more you're in there, the more the damage it will do. It won't just stay a consistent damage. The next thing is, now this is not necessarily a negative per se, just something that I would like to see in there is like all chat. I just love all chat. I mean, I understand that maybe it's like toxic and whatnot. I come from League of Legends, so maybe, maybe I'm just toxic. But I don't know. Like sometimes you just hit like a shot and you just want to brag about it or something. Something. I don't know, something. Or you're able to talk to them at the end of the game, which maybe this isn't really a problem. And maybe some people like that. Maybe you prefer that, but I would like it to at least be an option to turn on or off, in my opinion. But that's more of a personal thing. But yeah, like I would like to see that. Moving on to another thing that I feel like that should just come mandatory when you're playing MOBAs is roll calling. I don't like having like when you're in a game, you have to call a role, and this is problematic because if someone wants to play the same role, I've been in games where neither one of them wants to like fill out like whatever was left open. And it's not like no, they don't want to jungle, but it's like a lot of other lanes. So I would figure that people would have fun and like mid lane would be open, off lane would be open or whatever. And they would just one time we had like a bunch of ADCs in one lane, or two ADCs in one lane, and people ended up leaving the game, which is a horrible experience. I feel like role queue should just be a thing in general, just because it feels more orderly, I guess. It feels like you have more control. I would like to know what role I'm playing ahead of time and not feel like I have to like call it. And even then, when you call it, not everyone honors it. So I would like it to be a set in stone type of thing. Going on to another thing is the banning system in competitive. I don't understand why we're banning characters when the character pool just really isn't that big. I've already seen players taking advantage of this, where they'll ban an ADC and then everyone picks ADC, and depending if you're ADC, if whoever's in that role for ADC, if they don't pick ADC ahead of time, then you're not going to get one. Now, ways you can avoid this is that someone could pick ADC for you, and then you guys could trade characters and whatnot, which is a cool kind of future. But I don't think everyone is, you're not going to go with players that just kind of know to do that. And like, sure, you could probably ask, but I've seen people ask, and that didn't really do anything either. So I'm not really a fan of that. I think there's not really a lot of ADCs, or not a lot of things in each role, not a lot of characters in each role for a banning process to happen in competitive yet. I'm not opposed to banning in general, but I'm just saying right now it just seems too early for that. Okay, this is the biggest one, or one of the biggest ones, is the unnecessary changes to character designs. I don't really understand why they changed Shinbi's look. They changed Decker's look. They changed a few looks. Maybe if it was like really, really good, I wouldn't really care about it. I don't know, maybe because for like returning Paragon, like I feel like most of this fan base is returning Paragon players that want to play Paragon. And it's like when you change the aesthetic of whatever character that they wanted to play, I just feel like they didn't keep in mind the actual character specialists, the people that love the characters. I don't think they kept in mind how those players would feel. Me personally, I don't really care about Shinbi's changes, but I have friends that love Shinbi that won't even touch her now, based off of her design alone, which is just really unfortunate, because I can only speak for myself, but the way that I've enjoyed these games is through the characters. These characters help me to fall in love with the game as well, not the other way around. So I can kind of empathize with that. There's been other changes too, to like Aurora, with her hair. Like it's little stuff, but I feel like if you love the game as much as I do, or as much as my friends do, you just notice those type of things. When something's off with your character. Another thing would be like phase. Sluggo is now not purple, it's like yellow. And then at some points in some skins, it's a bear. So I don't know. Maybe it sounds like I'm nitpicking at this point, but I am. I think I am. I think this is a nitpick, but still, it's like those little details I think really matter and just can add to the overall enjoyment for your player base. Now, another thing, oh my God. Moving on to my next point would be travel mode and teleporters. So travel mode was a thing in the legacy map because the legacy map was so huge. So you need a travel mode, I understand that. I don't understand why I have a travel mode when the map is shorter. That's gonna move me into my next point. So I guess these 2 points will be the same, but towers, we only have 2 towers now. So that means vertically, the map vertically now is shorter, which means that when you recall, you can get to your lane faster because it's only 2 towers from your core. So with travel mode, you're getting back there very, very, very quickly. So backing doesn't feel like it's as punished as it used to be, or it doesn't feel like as rewarding when you get someone to back as it did in older Paragons. Because that used to be equivalent to dying almost. And then horizontally, the way that the map is constructed is just too wide. I don't know, maybe other people will understand what I'm talking about. It just feels too wide. It doesn't have, it just feel, I feel naked. I don't know if safe is the word I'm looking for, but it just doesn't feel right. It just feels like things are too open. You can see too much. It just feels unnecessarily big. I'm not really a fan of it. And then going back to the teleporter is so problematic because once again, we have travel mode. So it's like we can already get to places from left lane to right lane pretty quickly, way quickly or way faster than you could before. Whereas now we have these teleporters that open up at a certain point in the game. And the problem with these teleporters is the positioning that they put you in is too good. Way too good because no one ever sees you coming. There's no sound cue, like there's nothing that lets you know if that teleporter was used. So you can end up getting jumped or, ganked. And it can be set up very quickly because all you got to do is just look at the map and see if someone's pushed up and then boom, into the teleporter. And then you're just there. And that's just, it's so problematic. It's so problematic just because it's like, it closes at a certain point as well. So that means that if the enemy off lane comes to your support and ADC lane or whatever to pick up those 2 kills to run down that lane, the other one, your teammate can't follow him because now the thing is on cooldown. And it's instant, like the teleportation is instant. There's no risk, it's just instant reward. It's just nothing but, even if the play dies, it's actually good that you used it because you stopped the other team from using it. That's how strong it is. When you come up from the lane, you're like, it's just 2 bushes right there, just boom, boom. And so like the positioning of it is just too good. And again, there's no indicator. So like, it is very problematic. I feel like it's just nothing but, it's just too rewarding and there's not a lot of risk involved in it. Moving on to the jungle, how they did the jungle maps. To me, it's just too big. It's a little confusing too. I just didn't really know where to go, or sometimes I just didn't know where I ended up or whatever. And I would just, I don't know, like I would just end up getting lost at times, not really knowing where I would go. At first, it's not as bad now, but it's still like, I don't know, I think it's unnecessarily big. And then there's not a river. There's not a river in the jungle, which is just very odd, I guess. Because then that also brings up the point with like the fog of war is non-existent. They brought in bushes, I guess, in order to make it kind of like that, but not really, because like you just have vision anywhere. You look anywhere, you have vision. So it's just weird that this MOBA game doesn't have a fog of war, because that's usually a thing in most MOBAs. But it's not in this game for whatever reason. And it's like you honestly don't need, like, you need words, but it's like I can't tell you how many times I've seen people coming from just looking in the direction. And that really shouldn't be the case. There should be some blind spots where you just don't really know what's behind the fog wall or whatever. Because like in the old Paragons, we had a fog wall into the river and whatnot. So it wasn't just completely all openness and whatnot. But now if it's like, if you can literally just see if you just look in this direction. Again, it's tiny stuff, but I feel like these details really do matter. Tanks are a problem in this game, balancing wise. Just too strong. I don't know if a lot needs to be said. I'm pretty sure you guys have experienced this as well. Sevarog, like all of them, Sevarog, Chimera, Feng Mao, it's like the problem is that through every single phase of the game, they're problematic. It's just overwhelming. I feel like they need to be tweaked down a little bit. Now, this next issue is a really big issue, is hero balancing. I mean, the first one that I'll talk about is phase. Now, they changed phase from being a support to a mage, which I kind of get. I understand that as a support, she's just way too strong. I honestly think that she needed like a rework or maybe a nerf in terms of how much mana she consumes, because I feel like that could dial her back a little bit. But they changed it to where she's a mage, which is fine. Like if that's the vision that you have for her, sure. My problem though is that she can pull people. Now, pulling people is not the issue. It's more so for those that have like, because in plenty of MOBAs, there's MOBAs where people can pull, but it's a skill shot. This thing is not a skill shot. It's just an instant thing. If you're in a radius of her, she could just pull you. So there's been times where I've laned against her and I've been pulled into a tower. You know, you get hit with that, then you get blinded, and then you get slowed, and then you die. You know, again, there's a lot of things in this game, a lot of things for certain characters in this game that just don't really make sense, and the risk versus the reward, the skill gap doesn't really feel like it's that widen or broaden with characters like that when it's just an instant pull. Like there's not a single thing I don't think in this game that works like that, or in any MOBA that works like that, where it's just an instant thing and then boom, instant CC. It's just that's too easy of a thing. Imagine if you're in a team fight and it's like a 5v5 in mid lane or whatever, or you're trying to get Prime. If she pulls, she can just stand next to her teammates and then pull somebody in there, and then you can get a pick just like that. So, and then now it's like, okay, we forced the issue. Now it's a 4v5. The team with the greater numbers, of course, will win. In most cases, they're not. Moving on to Aurora, feels like they just nerfed her. It feels like they didn't really like dealing with her in the older Paragon, which even in the older Paragon, she wasn't really that strong after she took so many nerfs. And her kit was just problematic because she only had 2 abilities for damage, which was her circle and her ultimate. You know, and don't be wrong, like she could still get kills that way and whatnot, but it was just kind of weird. It left her in a weird spot. And with this game, they didn't really solve anything. In fact, they made it much worse because her ultimate feels completely useless. It doesn't really feel that strong at all, really. It's not as bursty as it used to be, which is really weird. Again, considering that her circle is just her only ability of damage. And she's in a weird spot where I'm not too sure if she's supposed to be a caster. I'm not sure if we're supposed to be building her with AD. I personally feel like a way that they can fix it is if they made it to where she's got off of both AP and AD. If you're not going to change your kit, just do that. That way you can build for her basic attack and you can build for her ability power at the same time. Because in older Paragon, it felt weird because I feel like if I built AP, my melee was bad, and it was like, well, I have to wait for my ultimate before I can actually kill anything. If I built AD, it was like complete opposite. It felt like my ultimate wasn't really doing much, and my abilities were really all that, but she's not necessarily someone that can just melee you to death. Like, she can, kind of, but not really. Like, not in certain matches when you're going against like a Quang or a Feng Mao or not. It just doesn't, I don't know, the kit in general just doesn't feel good. I feel like the kit should be changed in general. Like, it's pretty problematic. They also nerfed her statue. Weird. I don't know why they made it as short as they did. I don't know if anyone ever complained about that, because either way, you can still use it as a means to tower dive. I think that's probably the only thing that people would complain about. And then the slide in itself was very clunky. My friend is an Aurora main, and there's times where he gets stuck in the wall at times and tries to slide up areas and whatnot. So there's just, you know, it's a very buggy character. So again, that's led to him dropping the character completely. Another problem would be Shimbi. Her wolves travel wherever you aim them. So if you're aiming at the floor, it'll actually go in the floor. Instead of it gliding on the surface, it'll just go through. Which is just really weird. I don't really understand why they did that. Because like, say if you're chasing somebody and they run down some steps in mid lane, if you throw it, it's just gonna go over their heads. So I don't know why they have it like that. It's just, I don't know, it's just a weird, unnecessary change. I'm not really sure why they did that. Other than that, I can't really say. I don't really play her that often. But that's just one of the things that I've heard that was complained about as well with the character. Now, for me personally, I'm a Decker main, which is going to move me on to my next point with my main Decker. Her kit should not have stayed the same. It feels like you're really just a stun. The slow bubble is useless. It doesn't really slow all that often. The damage, for whatever reason, is halved if you choose it. If you make it explode right then and there, you have to let it actually play out. And then if it hits in that thing, then it actually will do damage, but no one will be in that long enough, really, unless they're stupid. The problem with Decker is she doesn't have any kind of follow-up, so it's like you're really reliant on your team being able to follow up on what you do. The cage is kind of useless just because people can jump out of it. So it's like, you can jump out of it, everyone can get flash now. So you can flash out of it. There's many ways you can just avoid her ultimate. I'm not sure if this company is able to rework kits. I'm really not too sure. I'm not sure if it's just like not within their means yet or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, like I don't like that she stayed the same. Another one of my mains is Countess. I don't really understand why they made it to where her cooldowns were so long. Like, her wave thing, I don't know what it's called, but her wave attack is 14 seconds. Her teleport is like, I think like 10 seconds. And then her thing when she spins is actually on a short cooldown. which is really weird. I don't really understand why. Of all the things that's on the short cooldown, but also her wave thing, it doesn't go as far as it used to. It's not as wide as it used to be either. So this is very problematic because clearing waves has just gotten completely difficult now, because now it's like everything's on a long cooldown. So if it's not one-shotting everything, the minions or the Tions, that's a stupid name. If it's not one-shotting that stuff, you're gonna be waiting then 14 seconds until you can actually clear that. Like, you know, it's just really weird. I'm not sure like why they did that. It's made the laning phase overall like really difficult. What was Countess's problems in the beginning of the game of Paragon was her mana consumption. That was a way of drilling her back, which I thought was a really good idea. If you're not building items that give you cooldown reduction, which you get less AP for doing that, if you're not building those type of items, it kind of feels very useless to like gank or anything, because it's like, if what you do doesn't kill anybody, then you're going to die. The ADC will poke you out eventually. I don't even know if Countess was even getting complained about like that. The peons or the minions are too far apart. I'm not sure if you guys have noticed that, but the ranged minions are way too far apart from the melee ones. And at times, this is problematic because if you're pushing a wave and the enemy wave is spawning in or whatever, the back line, you might have like a lot of backline minions. Or they play so far back, they're shooting from so far back behind, they won't step into the turret, and then out of nowhere you're taking turret shots. And it's like, well, you know, how did that happen? Like, especially if you're trying to get a turret, that could be very problematic. You know, if you don't have any minions, the resistances of the turrets they get like stronger. So it's like, it's really harder to like take down a wave. And I mean, it's hard to take down a turret that way when it's like that, because you have to wait for your wave to come in. And keep in mind that getting back to your lane is not hard because it's shorter vertically. So now, again, that problem of it being short vertically is combining with the fact that the minion waves are like that. So it's just really weird. And keep in mind too, if you're someone like a Gideon, the Countess, Aurora, if you're someone that relies on abilities in order to clear your wave, it's really weird now, because now you have to select, okay, am I going to do the backline minions or am I going to do the frontline minions? You can't just get it all in one full swoop that you're used to back in Paragon. Again, I feel like this feels like a mistake. I don't think that this was intentional. So hopefully it's fixed. I don't know. But moving on to my next point would be Overprime, bro. Oh my god, I hate how much this game forces interaction in a weird way, where Prime is too strong, because in older games when you got Prime, it was very useful because you get all the like health and mana regen, the minions are powered up and you're powered up. So it was like, it was worth getting, and it was very important, especially if you wanted to end the game. It felt very necessary. But now it's like, crank that to 10, because now it's like, if anyone's within the radius of when Prime is destroyed, it does like, I don't know, more than half damage to anyone nearby who didn't take it. And then it does half damage to your turrets. And that's so problematic, because like, imagine if you're in a team fight and you're fighting for it, and let's say your team is winning, but then they end up like, someone ends up smiting it or whatever, and they last hit it, and then boom, everything is flipped just like that. And I just feel like Prime is doing too much for you, because I feel like even though you got Prime, you still had to be good enough to actually utilize it. Whereas now, it's just like, it kind of just does its job for you. It feels way too important. And if you don't have a turret up, like let's just say one turret, like literally one turret in left lane or whatever, is like it's all down, right? And the core is exposed to just that lane. Well, if your core is at like, let's say like half health, if they get Prime, you lost, because it will do half damage to your core. And it's like, why? That makes no sense. What's like, that's way too strong. There's way too much reward in it, because it's like, if you get Prime, the game ends. So now it's forcing a thing where it's like, you feel like you have to contest Prime, you know, instead of just trying to play defensively and whatnot. It's like, you have to, because it does so much work for you. And it's like, I don't understand why. I don't know in like what other MOBA does that. I haven't played every MOBA. I haven't played Smite. I'm not sure if Smite does that, but I don't like, what kind of MOBA does that? This is my first time of that ever existing. I don't know why why is it that way? It's just really weird. So if it's gonna do damage to champions, and enemy heroes, whatever, that like okay, whatever. Still stupid in my opinion, but whatever. Like okay, sure. But then add to the fact that it's gonna do half to everything, like every turret that's in its way. And if you don't have a turret, it'll do half to the core. So if you get it twice in the game, it's game over. It's like, why? That's crazy. Like it was already strong. It was already so useful and good in the first place. Why make it stronger? That's just I don't understand the thought process behind that, man. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what they're thinking when it comes to like the balancing of this game and whatnot. And because of that, it's just made this game not the greatest of experiences. Because even winning that way, in that kind of way, it's like it's not a matter of like winning and losing. It's frustrating, even though it could be like losing could be. It's very frustrating, especially when you're losing in that kind of way. But it's more so of like the game forces you to play within those rules, and the rules are just so weird, and it's just everything feels too like way too rewarding, and it's just like I don't understand that. There's just a lot of things that I would hope that's fixed, but at the same time, man, I think I'm just waiting for a predecessor at this point. December 1st can't get here fast enough.